Yo, what's up, you guys? This is episode 6 of the Untitled Book Club Podcast. I'm not exactly sure if we can call it that anymore. We decided to take a pivot, but we'll get into those details a little bit later into the episode. But let's first start for introductions. I'm one of the co-hosts, Terrance Reynolds.
And I'm the other co-host, Paige Flipper. You can find our Instagram links in the bio.
Yeah, so this podcast is a bit different. We don't actually have a book tied to it. That's why we don't know if we should call it the Untitled Book Club Podcast. We decided to do more of a life update. And more so of a podcast update and our exact experiences with doing the podcast so far. It's been a pretty interesting experience. We certainly learned a lot. We made a couple of mistakes, and we just wanted to share our whole entire experience with you guys on this platform. So, Paige, what do you think of the experience so far?
So far, like we say in most of our podcasts, we are building the plane while flying it.
Exactly.
So that includes a lot of bloopers, a lot
Tons of
of
those.
re-recording.
Exactly.
But I think overall, I think this has been a good experience and insightful. I know we tried out different platforms to try to boost the quality. We've taken feedback from our viewers, so thank you very much for giving that feedback about how to go about creating the podcast and putting out our content. For example, we have viewers give us the feedback like, "Hey, the podcast is too long. It feels like a lecture." And all of that is all very valuable feedback to help us better the podcast. So far, it's been a journey. It's been an exploration. It's been an adventure. It's been fun.
I know that's right. It's been quite a challenge because me and you've been friends for about like 10 years. And might be like one of the first times, or the very first time we actually worked together on the project. And doing this podcast, we had to figure a lot of things out. We had to figure out what exactly my expectations were, what were your expectations, how do we bridge that gap, how do we create an understanding. I live all the way in Tokyo. You live in the west coast of America, so we also have to schedule around a time zone difference. It's it's challenging, but it's been
Yes.
very fun. I say it's been a very fulfilling process. It certainly woke me up when I read a lot, but sometimes when you read without a purpose, you're just reading just to read. You know what I'm saying? But to do this podcast, it was almost like, I had to prep like it's game day, like that week before, like really like study, really try to like write down notes, really try to convey my thoughts and practice it before I get on this microphone. And one of the challenges that we faced was that, man, like me and you, we talk several times a week, but on the podcast, it doesn't feel the same. Like we don't talk to each
No.
other like how we did in the previous episodes. It just felt like we were trying to do a lecture, or we didn't know exactly how to handle this process, because this is the first time for both of us. And this is certainly a growing experience. So we're trying to figure things out. And part of this pivot is to reflect, but also try something different where we kind of like talk how we do on the phone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I second that. On the podcast, when we're in our previous episodes when we're having our discussions, it did feel, even though it wasn't so much scripted, we had a script that had like the high level concepts, but it wasn't like a free flowing conversation like we typically have in our day to day conversations. So it was, we've had a few podcasts where we're like, something just feels off about this podcast. Um,
It does.
cough, cough, art of war. Um,
you know, maybe yeah. So like the Art of War episode we recorded before this, but we didn't actually release it yet. We haven't fully determined whether or not we're going to release it. But yeah, it was like that's one episode that was also a challenge. We also had a special guest episode that was quite a challenge too. But the reason why that didn't come out is because my computer broke the weekend
yeah,
of, and I
yeah.
lost all the files. So it's been an experience. We, like Paige said, we have tried Zoom, we have tried other platforms like Iris, and now we're on this platform called Squadcast. Zoom is okay, but it didn't give us the audio quality that at least I was looking for. Iris unfortunately crashed on us, caused us to lose an episode, the Maya Angelou episode, and that was a big disappointment. That was like one of my favorite
Yeah.
recordings that we did, and then we had to redo it, which it was a different episode in its entirety, because the first one we was coming fresh off of reading the book. The second one we were a month after reading the book, and we was already into something else and prepping for the what's it called, Contagious
Contagious.
podcast.
Yeah.
So now we're using this platform. So we're like experimenting, and this is the process of building the plane, like as we fly it. I would say looking back on it from episode one, that 2.5 hour episode, if you look at the quality then and then look at the quality now, I would say our audio quality has certainly improved. I would say our speaking has certainly improved. I will also say that our video quality, at least like even the lighting in our own rooms, have like certainly improved. So we're taking baby steps. None of us are professionals here, but I really enjoy the process of this. Like I understand that in creativity, you start off at that baseline and then you just slowly just edge your way up until you become that standard that you're looking for. I think that experience taught me also a lot about the idea of task delegation. And as we continuously become more busy, as our ambitions get higher, I find myself in other areas of my life besides the podcast hiring people. Like, for the past, 6 to 8 months, I've been working on my personal website, and I've been delegating some of the more not interesting, but some of the more things that are outside of my wheelhouse to people who are professionals at it. So, in my previous attempt at building my own website, I tried to do everything in house, and I'm very good at certain things, but I really showed my limitations in other areas. But for this version of it, as an example, I hired a logo designer, I hired an illustrator, I hired a photographer. Like I started to like really work with people to make sure that the quality of the product, the end product, is better. And I think a lot of that came from my experience of like hiring people in this podcast. So that's just something that I carry with me, and I plan on keep doing that with other projects. What do you think?
No, no, I 100% agree.
Yeah,
Even though there is that financial difference, I think it
yeah,
is important to delegate tasks. So you have that whole triangle, that time, quality, money aspect.
yeah,
And for the podcast in particular, we were willing to spend the money to increase the quality and save time,
yeah.
which are like two huge elements in making sure that
Yeah.
this is going to be successful.
And
And I
sustainable.
definitely, yeah, and sustainable because long term, Terrance can't spend 6 hours every podcast
Yeah,
editing. And on top of that, like I said, like having someone who this is their like their life and their job, that does mean that the quality is going to increase as well. Personally, I'm definitely going to take these learnings with me. Even in
yeah,
my current role and my current job, I definitely needed to have this experience because delegation is important in my work.
yeah.
And understanding its value through this process also means that I'm able to implement that in other areas of my life. Unfortunately, I can't implement that in school because that would be lit if I could, but
Yeah,
can't
but
delegate people to do my homework. But
the internet is an amazing tool. Like it really is, and it makes me very grateful because this wouldn't be possible without technology. Like we live in literally an ocean away, and then on top of that, we're hiring people from all across the world to help us with this podcast or any other thing that we're working on, and we're really able to take advantage of people, not just like locally, like geographically, but also just around the world. And because of that, hiring people from different countries is much cheaper than hiring someone, let's say, for example, in the US. If we were to hire a podcaster in the US, we might have to pay double, triple the price. But if we hire someone in a country that has, I guess, a lower cost of living, we're able to like, take advantage of that because we don't make money on this podcast. This actually costs us money. So we're looking to reduce our costs as much as possible. And it's quite interesting to see how companies were able to take advantage of a global supply chain. And now we as individuals are able to do the exact same thing. And that's very fascinating to me. And it's
oh
kind of
yeah,
like
for
a
sure.
win-win for everybody because those people overseas who wouldn't have us as a potential client now has us as a client because of these platforms that we use.
Yeah, comparative advantages. That whole
Exactly.
the geography of jobs. If you haven't seen that podcast, go watch it.
We talk about
But
it. We talk
yeah, we
about it.
talk
Yeah.
about globalization
Yeah.
and we are experiencing that globalization in this process. As
Yeah.
Terrence said, we're going around and we're having people from different countries help us in creating this product. And I think that's, we're using globalization as we speak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's all good. It's all good. Like I don't know. Like so, let me ask you this. Just moving on. What was your favorite episode of the podcast that we did?
Ooh.
Yeah,
I think my favorite wow, no, hold on.
Mhm.
Because I think we had a few really solid ones. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like the Dare to Lead one was really good.
I like
I
that.
think the Geography of Jobs was very insightful. And
Yeah,
I really enjoyed recording Contagious as well.
me too.
Contagious and Dare to Lead were probably those were my three favorite books: Contagious, Dare to Lead, and the Geography of Jobs. Those are my three
Mhm.
favorite books to read thus far.
All
And I
right.
think that's probably what's making them my favorite podcast. And I think we just had a better flow with those ones. Those were the ones where we had a good flow. We
Yeah.
had our life experiences and we tied it back into our everyday lived experiences, which I don't know. Those I can't pick one. Those are my three. I'm a cop out and say three of them. What about you?
Okay, so if I had to like do top three, my favorite podcast was probably in terms of like, okay, so the end product of Contagious was great, but the recording process was a little bit stressful, so I can't put that as my top.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair.
but I will probably say I really enjoyed doing the Dare to Lead podcast. That was probably my top one, and then the Geography of Jobs. And I actually enjoyed Detach, although some people say it was quite a long podcast. You know, our first podcast for us to just do it and just get off the ground, it will always be like one of my favorite podcasts because, you
Hmm.
know, we were very vulnerable in the Attached podcast, talking
Oh
about
yeah.
some of our life experiences. And I don't know how many layers of vulnerability do we enter. I don't think we got super, super deep, but you know, we really did discuss like, you know, our own psychological makeup and like our own life experiences. And I do believe it's very valuable content. And that's something that we always strive to do is like we pick books that we believe that are very valuable. Like I always said that, you know, the books that we read and the things that I choose to talk about on this podcast, I don't just want to hear myself talk. Like, I'm not really doing this out of the sake of vanity. Like, I'm doing this to learn, almost like as a self studied master's class in like just business, psychology, and economics. But also, you know, those clips that we shared on Instagram, it was to like give people that espresso shot of information. You know what I'm saying? Not not just go out there and just do it for my own ego. And that's why I think our podcast, at least for me, is really dope. We don't get the biggest views, but I can honestly say that we contribute value to the world. Like at least even in the smallest of ways. Like we're not just trying to like waste people's time here. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that in comparison to some podcasts are just there to kind of get clout. Not calling any podcasts out in particular, but like
Yeah.
we, we're doing this as a hobby.
Hmm.
We're doing this as an experiment, and I don't think maybe we should talk about just how much time it takes to record these sessions, but we're putting in a lot of time and effort and energy
Yeah.
and money to record these solely for the purpose of learning
Yeah.
and for sharing the information that we're gathering from these books.
Yeah.
So I do think the even though, like Terrance says, we have a few viewers, the few viewers that we have, I feel like probably are impacted by this in some way. They're taking something away from our podcast. They're taking away some type of learning that they can apply to their own lives, and I think that's great. I think
Yeah.
that we could be out here making meaningless content,
Yeah.
but for us, it's pretty meaningful, and we're trying to put meaningful content out there for people to consume. So,
100%. And like this falls into the movement that I really subscribe to about learning in public. I think with the
hmm
power of the internet, everybody has a platform. And I think that a lot of us do very valuable things in our day job and throughout our day that just go unnoticed. And it reminds me of that old phrase, like if a tree falls in the middle of the forest, does it make a sound? If no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? And the answer is no. So, you know, this is something I discussed with my friends behind the scenes about how do we how do we capture more value of, you know, what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I had this discussion with one of my closest friends. I'm not going to really mention his name, but how do we capture value of things that we do on a day-to-day basis? Like we have talks about economics, business, relationships, psychology on the phone in our group chat all of the time, but no one's is really around to hear it but us. It's a closed circuit conversation and no one really knows. So how do we leverage what we do into like a, I guess to create value for us? And basically what I'm saying in a very roundabout way is that I thought a podcast would be a brilliant idea. Like, I was experimenting with writing blogs. So I think that'd be a brilliant idea. Learning in public encourages other people to learn, as well as you're able to share that information that you already know. And also, it gives you value from the time that you put into it from learning it. Because if other people see that you're very passionate about a particular field and you're very passionate about a particular craft, like, you get more, I believe you get like more callbacks from jobs. Employers see this,
Mm-hmm.
other people see it. You build up your own personal brand, your own reputation. You start capturing that energy of whatever it is that you're passionate about. So I believe that whether it's art, whether it's design, business, fashion, comedy, just record what you do and find a way to document it and let the entire world to see. There's different ways you can experiment with it. We do more long form here, but we should experiment with more short form. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this podcast could even hit TikTok. Those are conversations that we need to have, but capturing value of the things that you learn, like capturing it, like inside of like a container and releasing
Mm-hmm.
it to the world in form of writing, audio, or video. It's a very powerful concept. What do you think?
And it also inspires others.
Yeah.
So, prime example or case in point, you know, part of this started when, you came to me with the idea to put into podcast, and then I was like, oh, well, I have this book blog that I'm trying to do. So I have
Well, you
like my
came to me
book
with
blog.
the book. You came to me with the book club first. And I was like,
Oh,
I don't really
snap.
know if I want to do it. I don't. I was like, I kind of like pitter patter. I was like, let me get back to you. Like, I'm not really sure if I want to do the book thing. And then I think I came to you like, what if we record it? And that's how I
Oh
remember
yeah,
it. Is that how it went
I
down?
think that is
Yeah.
because I think I started my book blog first on my personal account,
Instagram. Yeah.
switched it over to my I made a book blog called Page Flipper or
Hmm.
it's a Bookstagram Page Flipper, and then Terrance and I discussed doing a podcast or a bookcast. But in the process of this, it also inspires others because after we put out our first couple episodes and we had those clips up, some people from my job was like, hey, saw your podcast, see your book blog. We want to do a podcast internally. And I actually was, it ended up doing a book club and not a book podcast.
Wow.
But I actually ended up being like a guest speaker on the book club.
Yeah.
And they actually did Dare to Lead as one of which was funny. So then in the process, this is like a couple episodes after we did Dare to Lead. So in the process of that, I was like, oh, here, by the way, here's our podcast link to Dare to Lead.
Yeah.
But, I like to think that part of that idea was sparked. And don't get me wrong, at my job, there's multiple different book clubs. But I think for this
Hmm.
particular one, part of it was sparked because of what we were doing. So
Yeah.
sharing and learning in public also inspires others to try new things,
Yeah.
which they may pull you into to be a part of, which is also nice because it builds a sense of community in a sense.
Yeah. So we live in an attention economy. So how do we capture attention is ultimately what it boils down to. Like this is in one way it's very great and that we were able to inspire in that small way to push someone else to do their own thing. Now I don't know if they're still doing that book club or podcast, whatever it is that they set out to do, but it's really good to see that something that we did on the side just kind of like spark that. I kind of forgot my other point. We might need to edit this out because I had something else I was going to connect this to, but now I forgot. But it's all good because this is just a conversation.
Well,
So you pick it up.
yeah, leave it in. One
Yeah,
other
yeah,
thing that I think that we can connect it to is the fact that now that we have this learning, now that we're learning in public, this is also why we're pivoting.
yeah.
Like we're taking these
Great.
learnings, we're taking all this, and now we're pivoting because at the core, we're passionate about particular topics.
Exactly.
And we pick books around those topics. However, the book form that we're using,
It's quite limiting.
some people may love it, some people may hate it. We're kind of so
Yeah.
being able to take these topics and talk about it, like Terrance said, talking about potentially doing shorter podcasts.
Hmm.
We're going to explore more, and part of that exploration is okay. Instead of having it book based, topic based,
Yeah.
and draw in different books or different references or different, articles, books, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
resources to support that topic and support that conversation. And hopefully it'll be more like a conversation like we're having today where it's not scripted and we're just sharing, and
Yeah.
we're not like looking at our monitors trying to figure out where were we, where's our next words, edit point, edit point, edit
Edit
point.
point, edit point.
And, let's redo this, because there's been times where Terrance and I, we've redone our points multiple times.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're lucky and it's one shot and it's like, oh yes, we got it. We were able to get through that
Yeah.
for that particular section. Other times it's like, yeah, let's record that a third or fifth.
Because as the books
time.
become more challenging, and it's like the Dare to Lead and the Attach, we didn't have as many edit points because we can lean on our own experiences. But as we got more deeper into the weeds and we're trying to be as accurate as possible, it's like there is no way that we can like do this without like trying to read off like what essentially is like a Google Doc teleprompter. So
Yeah.
that created quite a challenge for us. And like Paige said, we kind of just wanted to expand a little bit and just make it more conversational based about the things that we're interested in. So I don't know if you want to share your not inspirations, the things that you're interested in rather. Like,
Yeah.
but I love tech. Like I love tech. Anyone who knows me know that I always talk about tech. Like I like to think of myself as a local expert when it comes to tech topics. Something I've been diving in recently is like finance and economics. I've been reading a lot about just how the economic system work because we both invest. I buy assets such as cryptocurrencies, stocks. Like I'm thinking about getting into real estate a couple of years from now. Like, and these are things that I'm just trying to like, figure out. And I wanted to share that. And the problem with the books is that, well, we have book schedules and it's like, damn, I'm really expired and I want to talk about these things, but I can't because we need to find a book that somehow match it. And I'm like, why do we need a book to give us permission to talk about it? Or how come we just can't talk about it? I guess part of the reason why I thought the books was necessary because again, and maybe it's my own insecurity, but I don't want to just come on this podcast as a nobody and just start saying like, this is it and you should believe me and this is the truth. So I leaned on the book as a way to say like, hey, this is where I'm getting this information from. And if you believe this book is credible, then I guess what I'm saying is credible right now. But I think that's irrelevant. I think what's mostly important is that we do an honest job as stewardess of this podcast, as stewardess of information to make sure that whatever we're saying is credible and fact based. And I read more than just one book a month. I read several books a week. So I just want to talk about all the things that that inspire me. What about you?
As you know, Terrance, and I'll reveal it. They probably. Oh, actually, nope. That last podcast got cut, so nobody knows except a few people. I am very interested in security. I got accepted to a master's program and starting in September. And I'm going to be, learning a lot. Cybersecurity. You said law security?
I said mall security, like Paul, like, what was that movie, Paul Burt? Like mall cop?
Yeah, I'm going to be a mall cop. I'm very excited about it. No, but some things that interest me is cybersecurity. I'm getting my master's in that. Mixed reality, which is my day job. My job is mixed reality. Mixed reality mixed with identity, mixed with a lot of other networking concepts. I'm also interested in stock. One book that I really liked that I read was Women with Money, and it talked about investing, building a legacy, the emotional meaning that's tied to money. Everybody has an emotional tie to money in some way. Exactly. So I'm interested in stock and investing. I actually hit one of my investment goals 2 months ago. So I was really excited about that and just seeing that, hey, if I took the time to, and I'm not like the most knowledgeable investor, I'm still learning, but being able to hit some of my goals investing, and that's something I would want to talk about. That's something where I would like to share. This was my goal. Well, I probably won't share what my goal was. I'll just tell you that I hit it. Okay. I don't know if I want to be that vulnerable out here in these streets, but
start counting your pockets, like how much you made last year.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so instead, I want to be able to talk about, this was my goal. This is how I set that goal, and this is how I reached that goal, and give tips on how you could reach a similar goal as well. So I'm interested in a lot. I'm interested in real estate. I'm thinking about buying a home out here in Seattle. Terrance and I, we talked about that recently. I'm interested in a lot of things, and it'll be nice that, like Terrance says, as we're learning this information, to be able to share it with you all, but not have to rely so heavily that we have to read a whole entire book and say, we're going to do a podcast on this particular book, but
Yeah.
instead saying, here's some books and some resources that we use to back up our claims and to share our experiences.
Because that's how most knowledge is transferred. I mean, to be honest, after we leave school, we stop getting lectures. Most knowledge is just simply transferred by us having conversations with other people giving you advice, people giving you tips, and rather us trying to like distill a book, we talk about these things more broadly, and then we just point you to the books that we read. Like, and we this is all loose right now, so this isn't even set in stone. But one of the ways I imagine it, if we pick a topic, let's say for investing, we just talk about it, and then it says, hey, if you want to learn more, here are some of the books that we read recently on it, and you can
Mm-hmm.
go do the research yourself. And we think that gives the authors can always express their own words better than we can, and it frees us to like not just use one book but to use multiple books and talk more about us, because we believe that that's what the people want, and that's certainly just easier for us. Like it's so much
Yeah,
easier.
less
Like,
stressful. So
yeah,
much less stressful.
yeah, like we like, and we're doing this all the while living life. Like, Paige just got accepted into her master's program. I'm not going to reveal what university, because I don't know if we talked about it yet. But me personally, like, I'm in Japan for my fourth year right now, working in Tokyo, living slightly outside of Tokyo. I'm considering becoming a permanent resident here. I haven't fully decided. I was like, how cool would it be if I buy a house in both America and in Japan? Like, that would be pretty cool. Like, if America ever, like, fails as a country, if I wanted to have an exit for whatever reason, I can have just a fallback. I can freely enter and leave this country as we speak. Because right now, for some of the viewers who are not living in Japan, I work here on a work visa. Like, if I don't have a job, I lose my visa here and I have to go back to America. And if I quit my job, I think I have to find another job within like 30 days, something like that,
Mm.
or I lose my visa. Like, I can only work in certain sectors, and that's something that's quite challenging. Having a permanent residency here, I'll be practically a citizen but not a citizen. So I'll be able to like just freely come here, leave here, and do whatever I want. Like, I want to get my master's degree as well, but if I decide to go to like university here part time, I will lose my work visa, which means I can't work, which means that I have no way of living out here. So it's not really practical. So, these are things that, I'm thinking about right now. Everything is up in the air. I'm 26 years old. To be honest, I have no clue what I'm going to do over the next 2 years. If you asked me 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, that I'll be a software engineer in Japan, I'll be like, you're insane. I'll be like even more insane if you said I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to talk about books. So I have no clue what the next 2 years will bring me. I used to have a 5 year plan, a 10 year plan. Now those are just like rough estimates, like rough estimates. And now I'm just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like just planning out my life on an every 2 year basis. Yeah.
Which I think is a good strategy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, what's that guy name? He's one of the CEOs of, not C one of the CEOs, but he's one of the executives of Apple. I believe his name is not Phil Schiller. It's one of the guys. I forgot, but I was listening to one of his lectures at one of his universities that he used to attend, his alma mater, and he talked about how after he got his MBA, he wrote this 5 year plan out, and and like after he looked back at his 5 year plan, like as a 50-year-old man, because he was in his 20s when he got his MBA, he's just like, none of this is accurate. Like, none of this happened, and things just like life kind of just like presented him different
Mm-hmm.
paths. And I think that's pretty interesting that we try to control life, but we constantly get reminded that life really shapes us, not really the other way around. The universe, the world will exist with or without us. But I think we as people have this belief that we can fully control everything that happens. And we can control everything within our tiny sphere of influence, but sometimes even our own lives will present us with things that we never thought about, and challenges that we never expected to face. So yeah, I'm optimistic. I don't want to sound like I'm scared or like the future is mysterious. I'm very optimistic because things has been great so far, and I'm very grateful to be here because it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I think I'm giving up on that whole 5 year plan notion.
Hmm.
Like Terrance said, you can have like a rough idea, but you have to stay present in the moment and realize that opportunities happen. Like, I never thought that I was going to be here in Seattle, Washington. That wasn't a part of my 5 year plan, yet here I am. if you stick to like a stringent plan, you probably are going to miss out on some great opportunities that could get you in a better place than you would have even imagined. So have a rough idea of what you want out of life and when you want it, but you don't have to fully prescribe to that plan. Know that things are going to change by even by month, a month by month basis. Opportunities arise. Case in point, no case in point. No
No
case in
case in
point.
point.
No case in
You don't
point.
want to share it.
No case in point.
And that's another challenge. When you get on these public platforms, information lasts forever. And something that we struggle with even with this podcast is like establishing boundaries. We want to talk about our lives, but we don't know what's the most responsible way of doing it. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I personally see is that a lot of people I've seen a lot of people who have put out content in 2012, 2011, and years later they regret it. They got canceled. They say some wild shit.
Yep.
They look back at it and it's like, yo, that's cringeworthy. So, you know, I think the same will happen to us, but maybe not to that extent. We will always look back at our previous work and be like, we could have done so much better. I even look back at our very first podcast. I'm like, I can't believe that quality was so low, like the video quality. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe that we just let that go out the door, but we were very excited. But we're taking it one step at a time, and then as we take many steps, we're able to look back at it. So basically, what I'm saying is that we're trying to learn what it's like to be a presenter in a very public space with content that could theoretically last forever, be copied, reposted, and duplicated, and that anybody can see. So it's quite a learning experience for us. Is we have to like
Yeah.
navigate through this, and you will see that if we keep doing this, that who we are, how we present ourselves in this mic will transform, because how me and you interact on the phone isn't the same of how me and you interact on this podcast. Like it's
No, not at all.
yeah, it's like almost like a sliver of ourselves, and as we get more comfortable, maybe we will learn how to be our real selves. But that takes a while. I mean, right now I'm very happy that we're doing this format because I'm kind of just talking how I normally talk.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not completely 100%. So yeah.
Yeah. I for some reason, at least for me personally, when the camera comes on and I see my image and I see your image, it's just automatically my brain is like, whoa, what is this? And it's totally different than when we're, like you said, when we're on the phone call. Because when we're on the phone calls, we're cracking jokes. But granted, like you said, want to make sure we put out some, be responsible about what we're putting out. So
Yeah.
like, we have difficult conversations too. We have insightful conversations, but again, having those, like, braving the wilderness, dare to lead, vulnerability, having those conversations in a public space without fully knowing how to be a person in the public space is really hard. So it's going to probably take some time for us to get to that place. And yeah, it's just going to take us hopefully by next year, which speaking of next year, are we going to talk about our endeavors?
You talking about the idea that we have in mind, like what we want to
Yeah.
do?
Do we want to put that out there? Or do we want to just hold on until we finalize it?
If you want to commit to it, like, I'm of the notion, like, let's just put it out there. And like, cause
all right, put it out there then.
so we're thinking about, so we've been doing 6 months, 7 months of doing the book podcast, but we're like, you know what? Let's level this up, right? Let's level this up in a real way. So one of the things that we're highly considering is like writing a book. And by highly considering, like, we're already like sketching out like the rough idea. Should we actually reveal? I don't want to reveal the concept
too much, yeah,
because it's likely to transform. Like in any creative endeavor, the idea that we start off with and what it grows into becomes something completely different. So right now we are roughly sketching out an outline of writing the book and the topics that we're very passionate about. So if we already talked about it, psychology meets tech meets economics.
Yep.
We're going to write something within that sphere. I don't want to reveal too much, but we were like, hey, we want to be authors. Like, I want to have that by my name.
Much.
Like, I want to be like software engineer, author, etc., like 10 years from now. So we're having those discussions right now. We plan to really start writing it towards the end of the year. We don't know what will happen to this version of the podcast right now. It definitely will transform on that 1 year anniversary, and we might take a hiatus to actually plan out what exactly it is that we're going to do in terms of the book. But our idea is to say, hey, we're gonna write a book and then do a podcast on our experience of writing a book, and then I think we can like reveal how we're gonna distribute it. Like, is that okay, or do you want to
I
wait?
think we hold off. Let's hold off.
Okay,
Let's not
okay,
give too many details. Let's give the high level so that way, because we might
go
that
ahead.
might
Yeah.
form. So,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
we don't want no one steal our idea because it's a
yeah,
brilliant
that
idea
either.
and no
Yeah,
one
yeah. This
did
is
it. So
yes. So yeah. So yeah, we won't give too much. But no, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be hard to write. Don't get us wrong. Don't get me
mhm.
wrong. But I think it's also gonna be fun in the process. And these are topics and things that we're passionate about and that we
Yeah.
have a level of knowledge about. So being able to share our learning, share that knowledge, etc. And can't give too much away about what's going on in the book, but
Yeah.
other elements, I think it's going to be impactful. And I think hopefully we sell 1 million copies and become billionaires.
So long story
Our
short,
book.
Paige and I are writing a book. So yeah.
Yeah.
This is exciting. This is exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And so my thing is, now I'm going like off the rip because this is a complete tangent. My
Go
thing
for it.
is when I am writing books, I am a person that I will sit down and write like 12 to 20 pages at a time.
Uh-huh.
Case in point.
Wait, you said like you wrote a book before. He was like, I'm the type of person when I'm writing books. Like, yo, is there something that you
No,
didn't tell me?
I haven't written books. I've written papers though. So
Okay.
like, case
All
in
right.
point, one thing, and I'm trying to like get better at this because this confirmation just fuels my procrastination. So many times in college, I wrote like a 12 to like 20 page essay the night before and got
Mhm.
an A on it. Don't know how. Well, I know how. Like I know how, but
Yeah.
just I don't even know where this was freaking going. But the point I think I was trying to make, the original train I was on before I hopped off and like took a tangent, is that I'm super excited to write this book, and it's for me at least, I'm not going to be writing daily. It's just going to be up. I sat down for a weekend and wrote 20 pages. I sat down
Yeah.
on this day and wrote 15 pages, and just letting it flow and then going back and editing. So I think it's going to be really important for us to share our processes,
Mhm.
because the way you might go about writing your sections might be different than the way that I go about writing mine. It'll be
Yeah.
good for people to see those two distinct ways of doing it, but still being able to accomplish something.
Yeah.
Because I
And
feel
we're
like people have a notion that one way is the only way.
mhm.
But there's so many ways that you can go about getting success and being determined to get success. It's just, I think it's going to be cool if we share that type of information with the viewers.
Yeah, yeah, and it's another way of just learning in public. It's like learning in public on a meta level. We're learning, we're writing, we're sharing our information, and then we're sharing the information of what was our process while writing the book. I'm not explaining the meta very well, but
But yeah,
we're writing a book and then we're sharing it, and then we are sharing
the
how we
process.
the process of we writing of us writing a book. So it's like this is all like in the future, but yeah, like I think that one of the most interesting challenges that me and you're gonna obviously face is that how do we make this into one voice? Like, and that's something we're probably we're gonna have that conversation maybe off camera as as the
Yeah.
months go by and even a year go by. But like we have to make sure that we make this one complete package and like we present something that we're both proud of. And yeah, I'm really excited because that's one of those things that I think will last forever. It will last beyond the podcast to say, hey,
Yeah.
we did this, and all
We wrote
before
a
our
book,
30s.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because anybody can do it. Again, like I'm really starting to lean into it. Like we don't need anyone's permission to do anything in this day and age. We have
No.
cameras, we have microphones, and we have like keyboards and computers. Like we can do anything we want and post it anything we anywhere we want, and we don't need a permission. We don't need somebody's permission. We don't need a gatekeeper. We don't need someone to approve of it or to say that's dope or that's not. We can just do it and then let the world
Yep.
decide. So I'm very excited. I mean, even this podcast, like it's being recorded on some software on the internet. I'm actually using my phone to record the video. I think Paige has a different setup, and then I have like a
Hmm.
microphone from my old rapping days, and we're releasing it. 50 years ago, if we wanted to release something that possibly the world can see, we had to get on TV, and it was like such a small door of people. I mean, it's such a small window that only a few people can enter. That it maybe wouldn't be practical for us. But whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, or anything that we are doing now, we quite frankly don't need anyone's permission. So
Yeah.
that's exciting.
We have
Yeah,
complete freedom.
yeah. Do you think this is a good place to end? Like, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, no, I think we covered the majority. We covered the pivot.
Uh,
We covered
it's
our
45 minutes.
struggles.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we did good.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
only
So
have like 2 edit points.
yeah, yeah. So no one can complain that our podcast is long. This one should come in under 40 minutes. I hope that even in our more loose freestyle form of whatever this is, that we were able to share some valuable information. And it's awesome when you guys respond back to us, because it creates a two-way conversation. So whether you see this on YouTube, whether you see this on Instagram, Facebook, or anywhere else, like, shoot us a comment, shoot us a DM, and we love having this conversation because we say
Yes.
things like publicly. It's like doing the podcast. It's like being inside of an auditorium where all the lights dark and then the lights on us are bright, and we're just talking into a room, and we have no clue if there's people in the room. Like, we just don't know until someone says, "Hey, I'm here." So
We're
if
like,
you
yay.
so when you engage, we really appreciate it. I have certain people who have hit me up and engaged at any capacity is much appreciated. We don't want to feel like we're talking at you. We want to talk with you and continue this conversation. So uh yeah, thank
Comment,
you.
please. Leave your
Thank you.
comments.
This is our 6 month, 6 episode, like, I don't know, anniversary or midpoint. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's been a great experience. It's been a challenging experience, but most importantly, it's been fulfilling. And thanks. Any
Yeah.
last words?
No, no, thank you all just for rocking with us and giving us your feedback. That has been super valuable, as well as just upping our views. I think we're at like 100 views or something like that.
Maybe
I might be
total.
over the total. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we got some views. So
Yeah,
thank you
yeah,
all for watching. I'm pretty sure some of them was me.
yeah, yeah.
No, but I'm super excited for, what's next.
Hmm.
Super excited to share the journey with you all. And then if I'm not mistaken, and we should probably just touch base really quickly on what they can expect next from us. Um,
Right, right, right. You
so
go.
I know we have one more episode in the bag at least, and that's going to be about investing in stocks and our experience. It's going to be free form like this one, so it's not going to be tied to one particular book. It's just going to be our personal experiences and our key takeaways and learnings. So that's going to be the next podcast. And then from there, we're going to have some discussions off camera about what, if we're going to take a hiatus to focus on the book, or if we're going to continue so that way we can reach that 12, release 12 episodes. So that's something that keep watching, and something we'll reveal during the next podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm good. Thanks, everyone.